Hello folks, Shin Tiger Curl here, that dude in the straw hat. And I present to you my eulogy for the WWE Universal title. I say eulogy because that belt is dead now. That belt died a horrible, horrible death last night at Fastlane. For those of you who are not aware, last night, Kevin Owens, the champion who reigned for over 100 days as the second Universal Champion, who fought in a nice little tournament to determine a new champion after Finn Balor, the man who is presently on your screen, the first inaugural Universal Champion, injured himself during that match and was forced to relinquish the belt that very next night. That same belt was won by Bill Goldberg. Yes, that Bill Goldberg. A 50-year-old man who just wanted to come back by his own admission so that his family could see him wrestle live and in person for one time only. The match lasted 22 seconds officially from start to finish, not counting the shenanigans that Kevin Owens pulled to stop Goldberg from, spear, jackhammer, win. No, that was actually kind of brilliant. Now, what I'm talking about, now, the reason why a lot of people, friends included, have often said, well, why are you so mad? I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I'm apathetic mostly. Because contrary to what many people believe, I knew this was going to happen. You don't believe me? Go listen to the WrestleCast that I did with Matty J and TWK just last Friday. And I said, you can hear me say this. I said that as much as I want Kevin Owens to retain, I knew they were going to put the good belt on Goldberg, and even still, I knew it was going to be a squash. And I said outright that if they did something like that, if they were stupid enough, and I knew they were stupid enough to do something like that, then that belt would be dead. It would have no legitimate value. It would just be a hunk of gold. Hell, if Charlotte had won last night and kept her streak going and would have been a 7-time women's champion, with as much as they've been hot potatoing the Raw women's title, that belt still would have more value than it does than the Universal title has now. But I'm just putting this picture is up here for a reason. To remind you what the belt was and could have been. Now, they created the Universal title after the brand split because Raw didn't have a major main champion, because the belt stayed on Dean Ambrose, who was drafted to drafted to SmackDown. And so they had a battle of the Shield. They had Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose just before the brand split became official. Ambrose retained, and so Raw needed a new champion. It needed their own brand champion, and so they came up with the Universal title. And they had like a series of matches to determine who would be the inaugural champion. And one of the competitors of it was Finn Balor, a.k.a. Prince Devitt. Now, for those of you who don't know, Finn Balor was one of the hottest signs that Triple H was able to get for the NXT brand, alongside Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Neville, formerly Pac, and Hideo Itami, formerly Kenta, formerly the man who originally created the GTS that was used most famously by CM Punk. Now, Finn came out and he was lit. He was like a firestorm. He came out and there was literally no stopping him. He eventually would become NXT champion, the longest reigning NXT champion, I believe, in the history of the brand. For a long time, he was the face of NXT. He was the banner holder for that entire brand. And he won it off Kevin Owens in Japan, of all places. Yes, I remember that match, and I loved it. It's still one of my favorite matches to date. And this is just coming off Kevin Owens being a dominant and destructive and badass champion that he was. So we were transitioning from Kevin Owens to Finn Balor. So it was only a matter of time before Finn came up to the main roster. After having a final match with Shinsuke Nakamura, he came up to the main roster. He was drafted to Raw during the brand split. He was one of the few NXT hopefuls who was drafted directly from NXT to the main roster. And like before, he came on the scene like a ball of fire. Eventually, it would come down to Finn and Seth Rollins, the smarmy little bastard who weaseled his way into the world title picture. He was still a smarmy little bastard, but we enjoyed him for it. And we knew that the match was going to be awesome. So the match happens at SummerSlam 2016. Unfortunately, the fans were too busy shitting on the design of the Universal title rather than focusing on the match. But the match itself was excellent. It was excellent between Seth and Finn. And at one point, after, as mentioned before, during a power bomb into the barricade, Finn actually dislocated his shoulder. But he popped it back into place by himself. He did it so fluidly, I didn't even notice until afterwards. And he finished the match. He didn't just finish the match. It was still a stellar match. I didn't even, for those of you looking back on it, I couldn't even tell that he was injured. But unfortunately, despite that, he was still very, very much injured. So the very next night, Finn had to give up the belt. He had to relinquish the title that he worked so hard to get. And they had another Elimination Series to determine who would be the next champion, the next Universal Champion. So it came down to Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and Big Cass in a fatal four-way elimination style matchup. And Big Cass was eliminated. And I think, and then Triple H came in and he helped eliminate Roman Reigns, who he was having some issues with. And then just when it seemed like Trips was going to give the belt and help Seth win, he turns on Seth, pedigrees him, and allows Kevin Owens to pick up the bones, thus making Kevin Owens champion, making him the Universal Champion, the longest reigning Universal Champion, the second inaugural Universal Champion. And say what you will about him, his run was at least entertaining. He did put on some great matches. He wasn't as strongly booked as I would have liked, but he still held that belt proudly. I don't know of anyone else who could have done better in his situation. Then the whole Jericho stuff started, which was awesome in what it was, watching these two interact and see sort of a career renaissance with Chris Jericho. And I knew they were going to work a program between them when Kevin betrayed him at the Festival of Friendship a few weeks back, which was masterfully done. One of the best little booking spots I've ever seen. It's right up there with the all-time greatest betrayals, like Michaels throwing Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window, or more recently, Kevin Steen, bet you never heard of him, beating the crap out of El Generico at Final Battle 2009 in ROH. This was one of those. Now, enter Goldberg. Now, Goldberg came back, was teasing a comeback to face off against Brock Lesnar's Survivor Series. They called it Fantasy Warfare Made Reality, just to promote a fucking video game. Now, I, like a few other people, thought that Goldberg was going to get his ass beat by Brock Lesnar because Brock Lesnar had been booked, was the strongest booked guy in the entire company post defeating the Streak. But no, he gets beat in a squash match. And then Goldberg says that he might have one more run left in him and wants to go after the Universal title. And already I had reservations. Because, and this is the reason why a lot of fans are so pissed off right now, even though a lot of them, myself, could see it. This situation mirrors another situation that happened several years before with CM Punk and The Rock. Now, CM Punk, when he was still with the company, when he was world champion, he held that belt for 434 days, the longest title reign, the longest world title reign in the last quarter century. I think 6th or 7th overall longest title reign. And it actually meant something. Now, The Rock was scheduled to have a rematch of sorts with John Cena, again, to headline WrestleMania. A lot of people were upset about this, that a workhorse like CM Punk, being the world champion, had to take a backseat to The Rock. Because being in the main event of WrestleMania feels like something you earn, not just something that you're given. And now, CM Punk's epic, historic title reign came to an end at the hands of a part-timer, The Rock. And it was only used as an enhancement tool for the rematch between The Rock and John Cena. A match that The Rock would lose and pretty much blow his insides out from his ass. I know that and CM Punk has gone on record stating that he did not like this. It was part of the reason why he left the company the way he did, because he didn't feel appreciated. So now here we are, a few years later, and we have Kevin Owens, a man who was excellent on the mic, who was evolving into a better champion after his betrayal of Chris Jericho, a man who is so immensely talented in the ring. Don't let his appearance fool you. Kevin Owens can go. The guy is surprisingly agile for a guy that size. He can go, and he can go for a long time. He is a stamina machine. It was not Tozawa, but yeah. So, like I said, for them to go this route with the Universal title invalidates it. I mean, it's disrespectful to the people who have held the belt before. Two men who helped make NXT the brand that it is today. Two men who were absolute workhorses in terms of in-ring ability. Two men who the fans absolutely loved, who have wanted to see them in a WWE ring for years, but thought they would never make it until Triple H decided to reinvent NXT and bring in some of the best talent in the world. He went to the indies, he went to the international scenes, and he brought some of the best talent from around the world to compete in NXT, and then would eventually transition over into the main roster. All that came to a head when Goldberg beat or squashed Kevin Owens in 22 seconds. Now look here. Like I said before, now there are a lot of people out there who have a lot of things to say, and I've heard them all for the past 24 hours or so. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to preface this by saying that no matter what you say, no matter how right you think you are, there is one inescapable fact that you need to understand. That belt is dead. It is dead and buried. But some of you are saying, "Oh, shit, but you should have seen it right on the wall. Anyone who had any kind of sense would know that Goldberg was going to win." I accept that. But that title is dead. But then there are you nostalgia whores out there who say, Goldberg was the man 13 years ago. He deserves a world title even though he's a part-timer. I'm glad you're happy for that. But that title is dead. Others out there are saying, it's not so bad. Kevin Owens wasn't even that strong of a champion. It's not that bad. Yep. He might not have been a stronger champion than I would have liked. But that title is dead. And I've had some people tell me, I told you so. Everybody was hating on me. I knew I was going to win. I was right all along. Like, I'm happy for you. But that title is dead. There's other people out there who say, you all of you are getting played. You're getting messed up by the WWE, and I was right. You should just watch something else, because this ain't wrestling. Blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. You have a point, but that title is dead. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? I am saying that Universal title is dead. As of now, Raw, and in my opinion, Raw has no world champion. I repeat, Raw, the Raw brand, the supposed A show of World Wrestling Entertainment, has no champion. Why? Because its current champion is a 50-plus-year-old has-been part-timer who has not taken a bump, thrown a punch, or done a move beyond spear and jackhammer. We went from Finn Balor, an excellent in-ring competitor who has been a champion everywhere he's been and founded one of the most popular heel stables in professional wrestling today and the longest-reigning NXT champion, to Kevin Owens, one of the most sought-after talents in the entire business, notorious for his excellent mic work, for his excellent in-ring ability, who's been in the ring with some of the best talent in the world, beat John Cena in his first night on the main roster, to Bill Goldberg, a guy who wants to play superhero for his kids, or his son, should I say. Well, I have a message for you, Goldberg. I hope you're happy. I hope you were able to hug your wife and your son. I hope you were able to give them the image of you just destroying younger talent. I hope you're happy. Because now that belt is dead. Any and all prestige that belt had before you held it, it died the moment you decided to throw your hat in the ring. It's dead. And it'll be a long time before it means anything again. And it'll take someone infinitely more talented than you are, Bill, to make that title actually mean something again. And I'm talking like Cena with the U.S. title levels of importance again. Remember that? Remember when John Cena won the U.S. title and we all thought it was just going to be a placeholder while he went for the world title? But no, he said that this title actually means something and he was going to defend it week in and week out against anyone who wanted a piece of it. The John Cena U.S. title open challenge. You remember that? Where he gave a lot of guys who never even had title shots in their entire lives or in the entire time on the main roster. He gave them title shots and he proceeded to have some of the best matches of his career. Yeah, that. And then that's what I mean by important. Because there are two options left to this now that Goldberg has the title. Either it'll go to a part-timer or go to a part-timer. Because as much as I like Brock Lesnar, the man guy that he is, I have never once said that he should be a Universal Champion because he's a part-timer. He is a special attraction. He's like Undertaker. He does not need to have the belt. He just needs to show up, kick ass, and leave like some sort of muscle-bound phantom. That's what he is. And Goldberg is less of an attraction because he doesn't wrestle at all. Adam Blampied, Adam Blampied from What Culture Wrestling, one of the showrunners for What Culture Pro Wrestling, one of the hottest brands out there, had counted it up. Then the total time that Goldberg has been in the ring, sans the Royal Rumble, is 108 seconds. 108 seconds. Think about it like this. James Ellsworth, that skinny, no-chin loser from SmackDown, has had more in-ring time than Goldberg combined. Think about that. James Ellsworth has done more and has actually wrestled a match and has done more in his time in the ring than Goldberg has in the last couple of months that he's been back with the company. So, I just need to get this off my chest, and I'm going to say it again. Raw has no champion. Hashtag Raw has no champ. And I just wanted to put this picture up here. This picture of a triumphant Finn Balor, decked out in his traditional pay-per-view makeup as the Demon King, holding the Universal title, the first ever inaugural champ of the first ever Universal Champion, and just look at that, and then look at Goldberg. Think about it. This man dislocated his shoulder, popped his shoulder back into place, and completed a 30-plus minute matchup. We went from him to a guy who gets concussed by a door. You can say you were right. You can say, ha ha, I told you so. You can jump up and down and say whatever you want. You can be the smart ass that you want to be. But it doesn't change the simple fact that title is dead.